On today's Senior Helpers episode, I'll be interviewing Vicki Johnson. Vicki has been a prosecutor with the District Attorney's Office for over 20 years, but now she's taken on an important new job, educating seniors as to scams that are targeting them in our area. Thank you so much for being our guest today and for the important work you're doing, letting people know about the scams that they're likely to be exposed to in our community.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So how did this job come about?
Well, our office received a grant from the Department of Insurance. We applied for it and were granted the money. And the grant comes from a fund called the Insurance and Annuity Consumer Protection Fund. And as it is named, the purpose of this money is to try and work to educate the public as to the kind of scams that are out there, particularly connected with the insurance industry. We are also tasked with taking reports if people feel like they've been defrauded or scammed, and trying to help facilitate the investigation of insurance fraud cases and the prosecution of those cases.
And are there a lot of scams that take place in our community?
Well, unfortunately, there are many, many different kinds of scams, and many of them target seniors for a variety of reasons.
Right.
We know that adults over the age of 50 control about 70% of the wealth in this country. And unfortunately, the scam artists also have this information. So that is the population that they target. And the ways that they go after seniors is numerous. It covers a lot of different kinds of activities, from telemarketing to lotteries to insurance frauds. There's many, many kinds of scams operating.
And scammers can be so ingenious. I often think, they're sometimes very bright and come up with these schemes that are quite complicated, and I wonder why they don't put their efforts in another direction. They'd probably be quite successful, but unfortunately they don't. And I wondered what the most common scams are.
People are after money, and so they are very good at targeting the vulnerability of a particular population. In terms of our seniors, it is unfortunately often caretakers or family members needing money who come into the home and find ways of separating these individuals from their assets. We do see a lot of that, and it's on a national average. They're estimating that 60% or more of the financial fraud that is aimed at seniors is perpetrated by family members or caretakers. And the reason for that is because a family member or a caretaker can come into a senior's home and have immediate access to their bank account, their PIN number, their social security number, and if you have for example, somebody who has drug or alcohol problems and is in need of lots of money or is otherwise dysfunctional, the parent is a good target.
So that's very sad that it's someone that they know and trust that way.
Yes.
Yeah. But if someone is worried about a family member or a friend and is suspicious that they might be getting scammed, who should they call and what should they do?
Well, part of my job is to facilitate reporting. So if somebody feels that a family member is getting scammed, or if they themselves have been scammed, one call they can make is to our office, the District Attorney's Office, and ask to talk to me. They can also contact the Adult Protective Services. And Adult Protective Services will come out, interview the alleged victim, try and find out what's going on, see if the victim wants to cooperate with an investigation. If it looks like there's criminal conduct, the Adult Protective Service individual will report it to the appropriate law enforcement agency, either the police department or the sheriff's department. If it looks like it might be unethical behavior that may not rise to the level of criminal conduct, then they will try and work with the senior and try and help them get out of whatever situation they're in that's creating the problem.
Yeah. Well, you must get a lot of satisfaction out of this job.
Yes, it is very rewarding, especially if we are able to facilitate an investigation or to help a senior who is having difficulties. There was one case that happened in our office several years ago where an elderly gentleman received a phone call, and this is kind of a typical example of what can happen, and he was informed that he had just won the Australian lottery, $350,000. And he was told that all he needed to do was send a check to cover the taxes on the Australian money that he had won, and that he needed to contact this agent, and the agent would give him further directions. So he contacted the agent. The agent said, yes, just go ahead and send us this money and you'll receive your winnings. Of course, he sent the check.
Oh.
And of course, nothing came back. But in the meanwhile, this man was living on Social Security and had no money left to live on for the rest of the month. So he fortunately reported it to our office. We were able to assist him with our emergency fund, talk to the bank about what had happened, and try and negotiate repayment that was reasonable for him.
Oh, good, good. And where does the funding for this job come from?
This particular part of the assignment is funded by a grant from Department of Insurance, and the grant is designed to deal with consumers of insurance products.
Oh boy, that could be a big savings for them, couldn't it?
Yes, and the money for the grant, the money for their fund, which funds our grant, actually comes from people who sell insurance, because for each sale of an insurance product of $15,000 or more, the fund will take $1 or less of that sale price.
Well, you're a scam buster, aren't you?
We do our best.
Yeah, what a fun job. And you said you had some late breaking news about a new scam that's been going around?
Well, we just got word that people need to be on the lookout now that it's tax season for a letter that is coming out. And the letter talks to the recipient about possibly getting a tax refund. Only in order to get this tax refund, you have to return this form. The form asks for all kinds of personal information: your name, your address, your date of birth, your social security number, even things like your bank account number. And the promise is that if you send this form back, you will get a tax refund. Now the problem is, the form looks like it comes from the Internal Revenue Service. But it does not, because you don't have to send in a form to get a refund from the IRS. So this is a scam that is now operating that people need to be aware of during this tax season.
Is it throughout the country or just a local scam? Or
This is throughout the country.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Okay. I am so glad that you're doing this important work and helping us to be aware of the scams that could be perpetrated against us. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're most welcome.